experience has once again made it possible for us to reach another milestone. That's the occasion of our one-year anniversary in office. The moment does not call for celebration in deference to the very harsh economic situation that has gripped not only Nigeria, but indeed a good number of developing countries, most especially those whose economic mainstay is oil. In Jigawa State, therefore, we have decided to treat the period as an opportunity for deep reflection and a sober assessment of how we have managed to navigate the stormy waters of a post-oil price crash economy and still managed to tick off some modest achievement on our scorecard. I have therefore had several frank and interactive town hall meetings with our royal fathers, the Jigawa Community of Elders, Council of Ulama, the Jigawa Forum, and a selection of civil society organizations, NGOs, and other stakeholders where I presented our state of affairs and engaged in a robust and candid discussion on the way forward. As I address you today, therefore, I am pleased to tell you that the unanimous conclusion of those interactions have been that we have done a wonderful job under very austere circumstances. I don't want to take us back or overflow the issue of where we are coming from, but we cannot appreciate our position today without a proper perspective of the chaotic economic atmosphere that heralded our coming into office. The general security situation was almost warlike in its intensity, with the theater of conflict expanding by day, and for reasons that are now evident, our armed forces seemed powerless against a ragtag group that was holding the country to ransom. Added to this is the depleted foreign reserve, falling oil prices, and revenue dipping months on months, which added pressure on the naira and fueled inflation. And you would agree that from day one, we were dealt a very bad hand. At this juncture, I must salute the dedication and relentless attention that President Muhammad Buhari gave to the security situation, reversing in a very short time a deteriorating scenario that almost brought Nigeria to its knees. He has given the country bold and true leadership by restoring the confidence and morale of our gallant soldiers sent out unprepared and unequipped to the war front by callous government that was diverting money appropriated for their equipment and welfare to share out to political cronies and partners in crime. In the case of Jigawa, the scenario was worsened by the fact that the outgoing administration seemed hell-bent on spending every last naira in the treasury before the handover date, with the last-minute award of contracts and terminal spending spree that depleted every current, stabilization, and even contractors' retention accounts, leaving a handover balance of just 16 million naira. This rather brazen display of fiscal irresponsibility is more glaring when one considers that as far back as 2014, the government had begun to experience significant cash flow issues as a result of widening mismatch between their ever-increasing spending and the revenue according to the state. An example of this is the huge contractual liabilities of over 100 billion and about 14 billion worth of payment vouchers in the treasury, as well as merit of abundant financial commitments ranging from over 11 months of unpaid pension contribution to scholarship and examination fees arrears, and the fact that about 70% of the 2014 infrastructure projects were carried over to the 2015 budget uncompleted. With this black starting point, some members of the opposition had already started counting down days until we failed to even pay salary because they knew very well that they had decimated the treasury before they packed up and left. My fellow citizens, I am happy to tell you that we disappointed them and took up the challenge of rebuilding our treasury balances through a regime of prudent fiscal administration and selfless sacrifice. Not only did we meet our administrative obligations, being one of the few states not being on salary or local state salary or local government salaries, allowances or pension liabilities, we actually saved and started building up the stabilization account after offsetting all educational sector liability we inherited. And we managed this without a single kobo of the salary bailout. Many would wonder how we achieved this despite the doomsday scenario I just outlined, and I tell them that it was not easy and it would not have been possible without resilience and a lot of adjustment and sacrifice. We simply told ourselves bitter truths as government that we cannot spend what we do not have, and I must thank the Jigawa Civil Service for their understanding and cooperation in ensuring that our objectives were achieved. We embarked on cost-cutting exercise that started with the seat of government, gradually extending to the civil service contractors, and service providers, and eventually expanded to every cost center. The objective was simply to reduce the cost of doing government business without an adverse effect on the quality of service delivery, and I dare say we have done incredibly well. To give you a few examples, in the last 11 months, protocol expenditure in your government house has been slashed by 88.6% from 325 million in the last 11 months of the previous administration to only 37 million of the same time frame in our tenure. While security and related expenditure dropped by 87.9% from 1.89825 billion to 220 million. Government house expenses dropped by 16.7% from 1.52 billion to 598 million, while that of the Deputy Governor's office was reduced by 56.6% from 456 million to 198 million. Overhead expenses for the civil service was also reduced by 47.55% from 1.66 billion to 871 million in consultation with the heads of the MDAs. All government service agreements were also renegotiated with facility management contracts for the federal secretariat and other assets reduced by 50%, with the same contractors agreeing to provide the same level of service at half the cost. We undertook the 2015 Hajj exercise, adjudged to be one of the most successful and incident-free at the cost of 280 million compared to the 780 million spent in 2014. With our cost reduction strategy bearing surprising dividends, your government took initiative to prioritize the completion of the infrastructure project where we inherited. Instead of taking the politically expedient but wasteful alternative of abandoning everything we met at huge cost and start our own new. We focus on projects that have significant public impact and which will lead to colossal loss of funds if left uncompleted. We had earlier revoked some that were improperly and hurriedly awarded to siblings and cronies, and recovered funds that had been paid as mobilization with no commensurate work to show. As at today, we have inherited a total number of 332.04 kilometers of regional roads with a total contract sum of 36.44 billion, out of which the previous government has paid 16.7 billion, leaving an unpaid balance of 19.6 billion. We have negotiated a discount of 2.9 billion and paid out 808.6 billion, leaving a balance to completion of 8.5 billion. We also inherited a total of 98.75 kilometers of township roads with a contract sum of 14.67 billion, out of which only 3.2 billion was settled by the previous administration. leaving an unpaid balance of 11.4 billion. The sum of 1.99 billion was discounted, and we have so far paid 897 million, leaving a balance of 8.5 billion. PIDA roads, with a total length of 97.4 kilometers at a construction cost of 1.6 billion, were also taken over, out of which 1 billion was paid by the past government, leaving a balance of 571 million. A discount of 91 million was obtained, and 94 million was paid by us, leaving a balance of 385 million to completion. The sum of 81 million has been paid on existing road rehabilitation and emergency repairs using the state's road repair agency, JIRMA. In summary, we are presently working on 528 kilometers of various road types and have spent a total of 9.7 billion to get contractors back to site, and working after obtaining a discount of almost 1 billion. Still, in this sector, about 86 million has also been channeled into various electricity projects in the state, with most of this going into repairs and rehabilitation of poles and replacement of vandalized long-span cables. A detailed analysis of those and other sector spending is contained in our one-year pack sheet, which will be available at the Ministry of Information and all local government information offices, as well as now as a downloadable e-copy from the newly revamped state website at www.jigawastate.gov.ng. Another sector that we expended our scarce resources on is health. In line with our policy of prioritization of human development, the primary health care system has been introduced to devolve health care to the grassroots where it is most required, and abolish the previous top-heavy structure that pushed patients to larger health facilities at a great cost, irrespective of the seriousness of their alignment. With the primary health care system, most patients will be treated at the primary health level, with only serious cases referred to the general hospitals. Most importantly, we can now achieve eligibility in accessing funds from National Health Fund to augment our effort at the state level. To actualize and strengthen delivery at the basic level, we have commenced construction of 27 basic health clinics in each local government at the cost of 424.98 million, and 27 units of midwives' quarters in the hard-to-reach primary and basic healthcare centers at the cost of 203 million. We have also embarked on renovation and improvement of hospitals in Goram and Birniwa, with the provision and operating theater at the total cost of 190.9 million, as well as several smaller facilities intervention in Sarawa, Majeri, Kunono, and Katsinawa, and the renovation of 25 health facilities worth 25 million in Birnin Kudu, Gariki, Goram Jaun, and Megatari local governments. Within this period, drugs worth 612 million were procured by JIMSO under the drug revolving scheme. The construction of Birnin Kudu General Hospital is also being continued, as well as the construction of the main gate and premier fencing for the new Hadeja General Specialist Hospital, and the conversion works on the proposed second School of Nursing, Hadeja, which has reached completion stage. For a long-term solution to the issues of health, personnel, preparing urban centers and local government headquarters to hard-to-reach areas where the services are most required, the state government is sponsoring 60 medical students drawn from those areas to study medicine in China, with a minimum of 2-year bonding for them to practice in their localities. 150 nursing students will also be sent out under the same conditions. Agriculture is a central focus of our medium to long-term development plan, and holds the key to unlocking the state's economic potential and free us from the over-dependence mono revenue source over which we have no control over. I mentioned in my inaugural speech that I will focus on attracting large-scale agricultural investment in the state to kickstart the sector through sheer scale of production with its attendant trickle-down effects of the technology and improved techniques that only an organized private sector involvement can bring. To do this, we adopted the international principle of large-scale agricultural investment and developed a state land acquisition and resettlement framework to achieve a balance between the investor's need for land mass and the citizens' right to minimal disruption of life and livelihood. This has resulted in the adoption of outgrower scheme models involving smallholder farmers and all other in our major large-scale agricultural partnership, which includes the Dangote Rice project that will eventually cover 30,000 hectares and the New Group Sugar project covering about 12,000 hectares. The outgrower scheme has commenced in earnest even before the development of the commercial farms, and the farmers have already started benefiting from the advantage of an organized cluster approach with pooled resources and input provision, as evidenced by the recent food shortages, which saw many individual farmers abandoning their cultivation due to the lack of fuel for irrigation. On the other hand, the members of the outgrower cooperatives has the protection of the group logistic dynamics that guarantees all input, including fuel, as part of the agreement. And as we speak, a large percentage of rice cultivation in the affected areas is only evident on the farms that are part of the outgrower scheme. The state has adopted the same approach for other farmers outside the outgrower framework by clustering smallholder farmers in all 22,287 wards into 50 hectares cluster per ward, with a minimum of 3 groups per cluster to accord them the same benefit and advantage of the outgrower program under the state organized initiative. For effective and uninterrupted supply of input, JESCO is being recapitalized for the sum of 200 million to strengthen its capacity to provide quality consumables at affordable price to the cluster groups, and also 450 motorcycles have been provided to extension workers that are currently undergoing training by NASA to improve their mobility and capacity to provide extension services. Over 100 million is being spent to rehabilitate about 87 tractors spread over the 27 local governments to provide mechanization for the farmers. The state government is also expanding the SLTR program, which will simplify acquisition of title to land and focus on smallholder farmers to enable them to unlock the capital potential of their land holding at an affordable price. This initiative will roll out to 5 local governments and eventually form the foundation for a statewide GIS platform for effective land management and remote sensing capabilities. We have already started GPS plotting of farmers under the dry season fertilizer distribution, where 4,000 tons of fertilizers valued at 400 million were allocated in equitable manner, with each farmer getting fertilizer based on his measured plotted land holding. A robust drive to make agriculture attractive to our youth is also in place, and this is one of the outcomes of the cluster initiative. Clustered farm holdings will also be supported with tractorization and inputs and allocated to youth who will grow supported crops under close supervision and extension services. A full value chain arrangement will be put in place from farm to table and will involve access to market, small-scale value addition, and the orientation of the farming mindset from subsistence to farming for business. To support this, the Jigawa Agricultural Research Institute is being repositioned to come up with targeted solutions to some of our peculiar farming constraints, and a collaboration established with the Brazilian Research Institute in Morapa and Mardi of Malaysia. The educational sector was perhaps the biggest victim of the previous administration's misplaced priorities, and at best received only incidental attention as evidenced by the object neglect it suffered. Before we took over, counterfeit funding for SUBEB and UBEB were unpaid for 2 years, which meant the last time primary school structures received any decent attention was in early 2013. This government had to retroactively pay off counterpart funding for the third and fourth quarter of 2013, the first, second, and third quarter of 2014, resulting in the injection of about 3.1 billion into the basic education sector within a period of 11 months. This translated into provision of about 16,599 set of seats and a construction and renovation of 1,793 classrooms. The ministry also cleared a backlog of scholarship payments from 2014 to 2015 academic year, totaling to about 500 million. Resources have been expended on the data acquisition relating to the quality and number of student teachers and facilities in conjunction with DFID-SPIN program to enable us address problems in the sector in a targeted and specific approach instead of plugging money in an uncoordinated and erratic manner with no results. To ensure students' welfare and provide much needed support, the ministry paid out the sum of 882 million within the last 11 months in scholarship fund and has introduced an e-learning platform to eliminate delays in future payments. We are also testing and deploying various e-learning initiatives to address the issue of the very serious deficit in quality teaching at basic level. Jigawa, like most other states, is in serious need of qualified teachers that are simply not available due to the systematic collapse of teacher education and training nationwide and the simultaneous demand by private schools that continue to grow at an exponential level to fill the educational void. This government believes that technology holds the key to maximizing teacher resource availability through distance learning, visual and electronic teaching aids, as well as networking of schools to avail them current use of electronic educational materials to augment conventional methods. To support this and other tech-dependent initiatives, this government has reinvested in resuscitating Galaxy ITT, the state-owned internet provision and IT service firm. The company is currently testing a city-wide wireless network covering the whole of Dutse, and with the renewal of their national ISP license, will begin to provide quality internet service provision to all our major towns and indeed beyond the state boundaries on commercial basis. Water and sanitation is another key area in our list of prioritized intervention sectors, especially when we found out that no maintenance had been carried out on our water facilities in the last 3 years. The Rapid Water Intervention Scheme was therefore our first major infrastructure rehabilitation effort, and we spent 1.9 billion, of which 636 million is recurrent because of the motorized nature of most of the water facilities. This intervention resulted in the replacement of 402 submersible pumps, repairs of 92 overhead tanks, overhauling of 251 generators, and various civil works to provide or repair pumps houses, conversion of 39 motorized schemes to solar, and rehabilitation of 4,192 hand pumps. Pipe reticulation covering 3,322 meters was also carried out within the period, and 42 new solar facilities built, as well as 510 new hand pumps and 11 boreholes put in place to bring water to our people. Provision has been made in the 2016 budget for the redesign of the Greater Dutse Water Scheme, covering about 21 communities and providing water to the state capital. This people-oriented project was shelved by the previous administration, which gave precedence to the international airport. We are, however, working closely with the Federal Ministry of Water Resources to collaborate on the scheme and solve the perennial issues of water supply in the state capital. In commerce and industry, we had to go the extra mile in attracting the right kind of investment in Jigawa because we are surrounded by states like Kano that have a comparative advantage in terms of infrastructure and ready market. I have already mentioned our giant stride in the agricultural sector, which conglomerates moving in to give impetus to our goal of large-scale farming and eventually processing and production. In the last 11 months, we had also fast-tracked the development of solar energy with Nova Scotia Power and Pan-African Solar taking advantage of the LARF policy to fast-track land acquisition and compensation process to commence 80 megawatt solar power plant in Duze and another 100 megawatt divided between Hadeja and Duze substations. Ericsson Foods and Dangote farms are establishing tomato-based factories covering a combined 5,500 hectares. Following the successful opening of the Lee Group Jigawa factory in Ringim, the company has expressed its desire to expand additional production line, and the state government has decided to establish an industrial park in the vicinity to take full advantage of the location. The park will provide incentives and provision of common services, including infrastructure, service industrial plot, and warehouses, as well as ancillary business and production support like group security, weighbridge, etc., etc. Here in Duze, we just commissioned a granite and marble tile production factory that has the capacity to cater for both domestic and international demand for granite polished products. By sheer dint of relentlessness, focus on investor requirement and promotion, we were able to achieve a concept to production cycle of just 6 months following my first trip to China, and today branded Jigawa Granite is rolling off the production line in Kachi and making inroads into the building materials market locally and internationally. This is the same dedicated approach we intend to use in ensuring the gradual industrialization of Jigawa State, notwithstanding the prevalent economic challenges, using the full complement of my office as chief investment promoter and our supporting agencies, which are being strengthened for greater service delivery. The Maribon Megatari EPZ is also being reorganized to actualize the Zindar Daura Jigawa Kano trade corridor to encourage seamless ECOWAS trade relations and divert trade traffic to landlocked Niger Republic through the Megatari border. I'm sure you will agree with our promotion slogan, Jigawa is open for business. I cannot conduct this broadcast without thanking the citizens of Jigawa for their unprecedented support and encouragement over the last 11 months. I make bold to say that without your patience and understanding, the modest achievements I have outlined would not have been possible. We came to power under a political dispensation, but dare to say, from assumption of office, we put aside all political differences and extend an invitation to all who have the interest of the state at heart to join us in the reconstruction process. You will have noticed that despite call to the contrary, I did not truncate the tenure of the local government chairman we met in office, but work with them in a politically neutral atmosphere to forge ahead, resulting in a majority of them reciprocating by becoming our political allies today. Fellow citizens, those are very difficult times brought about primarily by adverse economic conditions as a result of the unprecedented crash in the price of the nation's economic mainstay, reducing the national revenue by 60%. However, while we lament on the present state of the economy, let us not forget that this country witnessed 8 years of unprecedented prosperity, with oil prices averaging $100 per barrel for the longest stretch in history. Let us also not gloss over the fact that the billions of dollars stolen from our commonwealth and unearthed almost daily by callous and insensitive individuals driven by primitive greed could well have been used to support the national treasury and mitigate the kind of pressure on Naira that we witness today. Jigawa State in particular got more money in the last period than at any other time since its creation. But sadly, prophylaxis and a rapt sense of priorities saw grand-style ego messaging projects being given priority over human development and poverty alleviation, or indeed, so minimally, investment in education or agriculture, a sector that engage 80% of our population. There was no attempt to save or build up any kind of reserve that could have provided a cushion similar to the scenario we had at the 2008 transition. It has since become obvious that the driving force behind some of those projects have more to do with citizens at the size of the fallout than service delivery or the so-called democracy dividend. We are witness to have self-styled pro-poor champions have engaged in activity and behavior that has nothing to do with the common man, and indeed more aligned with the flinching of public funds through overpriced and ill-advised white help structures that have proved to be a continuous drain on our legal resources. The renegotiation of some of those contracts was most awarded since 2014 is a case in point, with cumulative discount totaling to about 5 billion, suggesting a total disregard of the value for money principle or illicit self-serving motives or both. As we read, was shock and amazement on how public funds were shared out to influence election at the center. We also have evidence of similar mind-boggling withdrawal running in hundreds of millions from state treasury on the eve of the fools, and with no corresponding expenditure. We do not believe that this is unrelated or coincidence. We believe we have to investigate this deeply. Citizens of Jigawa State, I give you my word that this government will not forget to put the interests of its citizens above any other in the discharge of its mandate. We will continue to run an open and responsive government that is not family affair. We will also stick to our people-oriented program, despite the ironic and insensitive mockery of our grassroots poverty alleviation programs by a government that expects people to be flying to an imaginary destination from a state airport when the state is adjudged to be at the bottom of the national poverty table. I also give you good tidings, glad tidings of our modest attempt at complementing the palliative being rolled out by the federal government to cushion the effects of our battered economy. We have purchased 3,527 tons of assorted grains to be evenly and equitably distributed on the basis of 1 ton or 1,000 kilograms bag for every ward of the 3,000, for every unit, polling unit of the 3,527 polling units we have in the state. It is our hope that this gesture, though very modest, will help bring some succor to our citizens as we usher in the holy months of Ramadan. It is our fervent hope that people will use the opportunity of this blessed period to pray for the government at the national and state level for Allah's mercy and relief from the current hardship prevailing in the land. We continue to solicit for your continuous patience and support as we carry on the odious and painful task of rebuilding the economic structure that has been so systematically destroyed for the benefit